the largest cut to Medicaid in its history. Imagine 42 million Americans will see lower food assistance and SNAP benefits.
Medicaid has never been on the chopping block.
I'm not going to vote for Medicaid cuts, benefit cuts.
You will see no cuts in Medicaid payments.
Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
They talk about Medicaid cuts. Everybody's going to be thrown, according to Democrats, into all these horrible situations. There's only one problem. The word Medicaid is not even in this bill.
14 million Americans get cut their health benefits so that billionaires can have more? How much more money does Elon Musk need?
Tonight, the breaking news, CBO confirmed $500 billion worth of cuts to Medicare. It is shameful what is in this. It is the biggest actual taking of wealth from the bottom 10% in this country and transferring it to the top 10%.
They are cutting Medicare now. In the dark of night, the Republicans added $500 billion in cuts to Medicare. Let me tell you, as someone who's just gone through this with my mother, Medicare is wildly underfunded. The benefits, even with the supplement my mother paid extra for, were horrible. She could barely get out of bed to use the restroom safely without falling, and they would only pay for someone to come over the house 1 hour a week. The only facilities that would actually take her for full-time care had multiple violations for elder care abuse, were disgustingly filthy, and smelled of urine in the lobby. Cutting Medicare is an absolute horror show. It is absolutely cruel. You are talking about the elderly at the end of their life. It is already a horrible program that needs reform and more funding. And they, in the dark of night, added $500 billion worth of cuts. They are giving that money to the billionaires and to the wealthy in tax cuts. They don't care about any of us. They don't care if we go, and they don't care how horrible it is when we do.
In case you forgot, we pay for Medicare. Yep. Go check your pay stub. We pay for it. So where are the cuts coming from? Where are they going?
So it's 4:30 in the morning. The Rules Committee has been going on since 1 a.m. and Democrats are showing up because we're not going to let them hide their bill that cuts billions of dollars off of Medicaid in order to give tax breaks to the billionaires. This bill is a disaster. It actually increases taxes on the lowest 10% of all income earners in this country. And then when you take into account Medicaid cuts, increases in cost of living, people are going to be worse off in a few years just because of what they're doing here in Congress. So pay attention to what's going on.
Okay, I just woke up, but we have a really important new development in the Republican evil bastards bill that they're trying to pass, which is that we woke up this morning to find out that the CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office, their nonpartisan office that analyzes the costs and effects of bills that, Congress is passing. So the CBO found not only is this bill going to add somewhere between $2 and $3.5 trillion to the deficit, still going to cut Medicaid for almost 800 million people, still going to cut SNAP, but guess what it's also going to do now?
Hey everyone, welcome back to this channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. I really appreciate your love and your support. So today, I can imagine working 2 jobs, caring for your aging parents, and still struggling to afford medicine or food. Now imagine the government decided to cut the very programs that help you survive. This is not fiction. This is what happened during the Trump administration. In this video, we will break down why Medicaid, Medicare, and SNAP benefits were slashed and how real Americans reacted to losing access to basic care and food. Stay with me till the end. You won't want to miss these heartfelt voices. If you're new here, it's your girl Vanessa. Kindly consider subscribing and leave a like to the video. Credit to all original creators that you're going to see on our screens. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I'll be back with more commentary.
because it is triggering automatic cuts because of the amount of money it's adding to the deficit, it will also automatically cut $500 billion from Medicare. Medicare, which Trump and Republicans have sworn up and down never to touch, will get $500 billion in cuts. Is that going to affect you? Is that going to affect your mother, your father, your grandmother? Who do you know who will be affected by that? Because we all know plenty of people. Call your representatives. They need to hear a level of rage this morning and today and every day while they are debating this bill that absolutely terrifies them. Because right now they've got oligarchs, billionaire donors, giant corporations, people like Elon Musk, people like Donald Trump yelling in their ears that the only thing that matters is that they get their tax cuts. Do you want to know the other thing the CBO found out and released this morning? Is that this bill is going to disproportionately help the top 10% of income earners, and the lower 10% will lose the commensurate amount. 4% help for the top 10%, 4% loss for the lowest 10%. This is literally a bill that steals from the poor to give to the rich, but now it is also going to steal Medicare. Tell everyone you know and tell them to call 202-224-3121. Ask for their House representative, no matter who it is, and say, if you touch Medicare, if you pass this budget, you will lose your seat next year. I don't care how red your seat is. We will vote you out. Don't you dare. And that is my morning rant.
Well, by one vote, 215 to 214, Republicans advanced their so-called big, beautiful bill that cuts health care for nearly 14 million Americans, cuts nutrition assistance, makes it harder for families to get ahead, all to give tax breaks to billionaires. So the bill goes to the Senate. We have to keep the pressure on the elected officials in the Senate and to make sure these impacts don't hurt more American families. We did what we could here in the House. Now the bill goes to the Senate.
Okay, it's a little clearer. Y'all, did you hear about the Medicaid cuts? It's very real. Okay, so let's talk about it. All right, so my food stamps went from $700 to $345. Insane. Social Security for my other son went from $945 to $777. They're cutting, okay? So just be prepared. You may have to get private insurance.
It does cut Medicaid, Medicare, and SNAP benefits, which help over 40 million low-income Americans. Oh, it also removes taxes on gun silencers, you know, the big things that matter to Americans. Now, some are calling it a mixed bag because it does offer some tax relief for workers, but deep cuts to healthcare and food assistance that disproportionately hurt children, seniors, and people with disabilities. Now, the Congressional Budget Office says it will add $5.2 trillion to the national debt and increase the deficit by $600 billion next year. And that's part of the reason why the U.S. just got hit with a credit downgrade. And once again, this bill passed 215 to 214 by one vote. 2 Republicans voted against it, 1 voted present. And the Senate still has to vote, so changes could be made before them. So what happens next? Well, the Senate could approve the bill, reject it, or make changes. Either way, this is a major moment, and a lot of Americans are about to feel the effects in their wallets, in their hospitals, and in their homes. So if you want to weigh in, contact your senator at contactcongress.org. Share this with people, make noise about it. But this bill is going to hurt Americans that need help and props up those Americans already doing well. The big, beautiful bill, it's going to help the rich. It's going to hurt those that need help. And this is done by Republicans and Trump. Make noise. Let's see what we can do.
This is a terrible bill, but it was a close vote, a very close vote. And it now goes to the Senate, where we have more opportunities to take out the cuts to Medicaid, to help working people, not to line the pockets of billionaires and major corporations. But we need you to continue to lift your voice. It goes to the Senate, and it'll probably come back to us eventually again, if and when the Senate changes it. But this fight is not over. Democrats held the floor so that Republicans couldn't pass this heinous bill in the dark of night. The sun rose, and the public sees what House Republicans have just done.
Trump's fat, bloated billionaire budget doesn't directly target Medicare. What they do is they use the fact that the Republicans forced in the pay-go rule back in 2021. And so cuts are made automatically to Medicare if they don't make cuts to offset losses of revenue. And what they did is make massive cuts to billionaire taxes and didn't offset it by cuts anywhere else. So now there's going to be automatic cuts to Medicare to the tune of about 4%, 45 billion this upcoming year and over 500 billion over the next 12 years. Yeah, the Republicans are real pieces of shit. Oh, we're not cutting Medicare. What we did is we put in a rule that will automatically cut Medicare if we don't cover all of our cuts to taxes. And then we cut taxes and didn't cover those cuts, so it just automatically cuts Medicare. Oh, we didn't do it. Pieces of shit.
The One Big Beautiful Bill Act has now passed the House and it's headed to the Senate. And I've seen a bunch of creators saying that there's no provisions in it for tax on tips or overtime, but technically there is. The current version of the bill does include language that would eliminate federal taxes on tips and on overtime. But here's the catch, like you knew there would be. Just because it's in there now doesn't mean it's guaranteed to stay. Once this thing hits the Senate, they can absolutely change it, water it down, or cut it out completely. That's how the legislative process works. Nothing is final until it's signed into law. But let's be real. Even if that provision does stay, that doesn't suddenly make this bill good, because here's what else is in it. It would eliminate health insurance for nearly 14 million Americans. It would kick 4 million kids off food assistance. It would gut Pell Grants for 1.4 million students, and it slashes Medicare and Medicaid by over $1 trillion. Meanwhile, the top 1% gets something like a $664 billion tax break. That's not reform, that's robbery with a smile. They want you to cheer for your tax-free tips while they quietly pull the rug out from underneath the most vulnerable people in this country. This isn't generosity, it's distraction. And we shouldn't fall for it, guys. Just because something helps you doesn't mean it's good if it hurts millions of other people. We've got to stop judging policy based on only what we personally gain from it. Because a functioning society means giving a damn about each other, not just asking, hey, what's in it for me?
All right, before we go deeper, let's understand what was on the chopping block. Medicaid helps low-income families access health care, and Medicare supports older Americans aged over 65 years with medical needs, but SNAP or food stamps helps families buy groceries with money is tight. You understand that millions depend on these programs every day. So let's see together what did Trump propose and the reason why he did. In 2020, Trump's budget proposed billions in cuts to these programs. Why? To reduce government spending, to give more money to tax cuts and defense, and because some believed too many were relying on government handouts. But the truth, these weren't handouts, these were lifelines. I've had different people sharing their stories about this. There is a woman who was saying that I am single mom with 2 kids. SNAP is how I put food on the table. When they cut it, I had to skip meals. Another one was saying my dad has cancer and Medicare helps us afford chemo. So the cuts meant we had to delay treatment. This feels like they didn't care, like we were disposable. These are not isolated stories. These are working families, veterans, the elderly people who built this country. And yet, when they needed support, they felt abandoned. Why did Trump do this? They say the goal was to reduce the national debt and control federal spending. They believed some people were abusing the system. They also wanted to shift funds towards tax cuts and military spending. But critics said the cuts were dangerous and unfair. Instead of targeting waste or fraud, the policies made it harder for everyday people to get help, especially those already struggling with medical bills or food insecurity. This has brought many people to talk like they don't understand how Donald Trump could do this to their lives. People are losing their lives. People are living a sad life because of not affording all those things that they have been getting from those those Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits. So town hall meetings erupted, protests swept across cities, people had signs that read, "My life matters more than tax breaks." Allow me turning back to MAGA supporters. Why are you crying? Why are you feeling disappointed? And yet you know this man really well. And something that is crazy, no matter how bad and how badly they or their family members suffer and how bad it gets, these Republicans voters will continue to vote MAGA Republican. This is so crazy, but I believe that we all learn through experiences. I think you've seen how Trump is messing everything, like people are not happy. American citizens are not really satisfied by what he is doing. It's just prioritizing other nations, putting first the billionaires. I don't know what this helps the citizens. I don't really understand how people are going to live and struggling with this medical care. It's not everyone who will afford this chemotherapy, heart treatments, everything that is really expensive, or just for those who are low-income families. Imagine cutting Medicaid, cutting Medicare, cutting SNAP benefits just for the purpose of supporting billionaires. Which problem do these billionaires have? Which support do these billionaires need from the citizens so that all these people may lose their lives due to lack of treatment? Even some conservatives broke ranks, saying the cuts hurt the very people they were supposed to protect, working Americans, the elderly and children. So these policies were not just about dollars, they were about dignity. When we cut healthcare and food programs, we don't just save money, we risk lives. So we must ask ourselves, do we want a nation that lifts people up or turns its back on those in need? Your voice matters, your vote matters. Let's stand for compassion, fairness, and a safety net for all Americans. If this message moved you, hit a like, comment below, and subscribe for more stories that matter. Together we can make a difference. So folks, this is gonna be the end of today's episode. I really appreciate your love and your support. I don't take it for granted. This was your girl Vanessa, and let's catch up in the next episode. Bye.